Well, hello, and welcome back. First of all, to those of you in the UK, happy Mother's Day. I hope you're being spoilt and looked after and loved in the way that you deserve. Now, Sunday stitching. So, we're on our very final square, and all I've got left is one button, no black thread, a little bit of the yellow thread, and quite a lot of the mushroom. So today I'm going to use mushroom and black. This is obviously a stock black. Okay, so they're the colours I'm going to be using. I'm not going to use any of these fabrics, but there's not a lot left. The little bits that are here will go into my scraps box and they'll get used for something. So this final corner square, now as you can see, I have zoomed you in so that you can hopefully see, because you really only need to see this square. Now I wanted to sign this piece of work. You could obviously write your name and stitch over it, but I was going to aim for a monogram a bit like this. Now all I did to do this was I opened the Word package on my computer and I did a big C, and then I did a big H, and then I moved one on top of the other until they sat where I wanted them to sit, and I printed it out. It was as simple as that. When I printed it out, first of all, it was too big for this square, so then I just reduced it by about 25%, printed it out again, and now it fits. And you can see through the fabric, there it is. Okay, so I've got my Frixion pen and I'm just gonna draw round it. So get the curve, that comes in and it goes round. Now I'm not too worried if I make a mistake, because the beauty of this pen obviously is that it's going to iron out. So this is just to give me a good guide. And then we've got a curve at the top. We come all the way down. Because I'm putting my H on top, you may choose to put it underneath, in which case you would obviously bring the C lines across rather than the H lines down. So I'm just drawing over this, and then when we've got it all drawn, we can start to stitch. I'm going to be doing a very basic running stitch, oh, that's not very straight, is it? Very close together, and then when I've done that, I'm going to go over it and close up all the gaps. So it's going to end up looking very much like the lines that we've got between our squares. If you're on my Instagram page, you would have seen one that I did in reds a few weeks ago, and if I take that out, you can see I've got that on there. Only took a few moments. It's very simple. And of course, as always, I've lost my needle. How does that happen? Needle. So I'm going to do this stitching, oh my goodness, stitching in this mustard, and then I'm going to feed over it with the black. Now I want quite a strong monogram, so I've got a big knot in this now, look. So I'm actually going to use the whole of the thread. I'm not going to break it down in the way that I normally would. So I'm going to give myself quite a nice long piece. Use my sexy new scissors. Thank you, Catherine. Trim that off and feed it through. So I'm using all 6 strands. Doing it for 2 reasons. One, I want a nice thick monogram, as I just said, but also because this one I find very hard to split, so I'm going to definitely be using that hole. Consequently, it sort of made sense to me. So I'm going to do my usual knot, and then I'm going to choose a place that I'd like to start, and I'm going to start at the top of that C, just there. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this as it were in half. So I'm going to go in and out, and that will give me the 1 stitch. Yeah, now at the moment you can hardly see these stitches because it's the mushroom thread on the cream fabric, and then back down, and then I'm just going to turn it round, come back up like that. So, oops, so although I'm doing a running stitch, try not to pull your needle off your thread. Although it is a basic running stitch, as I call it, it's quite close together. It's not like when we do the invisible stitch or the old-fashioned tacking stitch. Come on, in you go. Right, it's quite close together. So then, trying to keep all of my stitches roughly the same size, with the in-between gaps a little bit smaller. And just pull that through like that. You can probably see that a little bit easier now. Okay. So then we just carry on round. So I trust everybody's happy, safe and well. This is obviously the very last one of these. So next week we'll be looking at the Down the Garden Path, the Roxy Creations, because we've just had a new prompt on Wednesday, and the new prompt was for visitor or visitors, so you know, people or things, so friends, family, pets, wildlife, insects, you know, people and things that visit your garden but are not there all of the time. So that's the new prompt. I have made a little start, and next Sunday we'll be doing that. But then the Sunday after, of course, there will be no squares because we'll have finished this. So I'm going to look at a new project. I've enjoyed doing this with you. Now I am currently doing the stitch along with Loretta at Sparrowhawk Designs. I believe I mentioned it last Sunday and I got it wrong because I called her Annette, I believe, because I'm absolutely rubbish with names. Those of you that have been here a while know by now that I am absolutely rubbish with names, which is why I call everybody love and dear. It's less offensive often. Anyway, so I'm doing that with her, but obviously that's already started and that is her project. Right, now here we've reached the upright of the H, so I really want to make sure that I'm down, up, and then I'm down at the point of the H, and then I come through on the other side underneath it. Yeah, that's her thing, and obviously we don't want to do her thing because that would be unfair, and it's already started. So if you want to do that, then obviously you can pop over, as I suggested last week, and join her Facebook page or follow her on YouTube, and then you can do that as well. But I thought what I would do is I would do a monthly thing that we would look to last for the month. So we'll do 2 of them on camera because we'll have 2 of the Roxys in between. And what Mummy's doing a video, and what I'm thinking we'll do is, or I'll do, and obviously invite you to join me, is I'm going to cut a square of fabric, probably around 5x7, something along those lines, and I'm going to, during the course of the month, decorate it up. I don't think I'm going to use an actual prompt like Rachel has, and I'm not necessarily going to do stitch with me like Loretta has. I think all we'll do is we'll say something like, let's make the first one maybe a sample rectangle. So you might decide that you love doing hexes, so you might put some hexes on there. You might love to see lace in your work, so you'll put some lace on there. Something along those lines, and just, you know, stitching for the love of stitching, basically. And then I thought maybe once we've done that for the first month and everybody appreciates how easy it is and that they love it, which is hopefully something you have discovered from doing this one, then maybe we could turn that into a swap. So we'll see if you're up for doing some kind of stitchery swap. And I think if we could get, say, maybe 4, 5, 6, it needs to be even numbers of people that want to do it, then if, for example, there's 4 pieces, then over the 4 months we could all do a piece and send it to the other 3 people, if that makes sense, so that everybody has one from everybody, and then we could make a small book or sample presentation like this from it. Thought that might be fun, but obviously it's up to you. If you ladies, well, or gents, if you stitchers are not wanting to do a swap stitch, that's absolutely fine. We can just sit and sew together, it doesn't matter. I just know that sometimes people are a little bit like, well, I'm doing all this stitching, but what am I going to do with it after it's finished? So we've come all the way round the C, and I'm going to skip underneath and find the H. So have a little think. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to, do a stitchery swap. I appreciate that everybody is of a different skill level and you might feel you're not good enough. Let me remind you that I only started doing this back in the summer. So I've been doing it for less than a year and I am far from an expert. So it's not about skill, it's about the enjoyment of the stitching. So if you'd like to get involved and do that, then I can arrange to partner people up and we could do that. If not, you can just leisurely watch the stitching that I'm doing. It's entirely up to you. So as you can see, let's have a little look. I've come all the way around the C on both sides and now I'm coming down the outside of the H. Now if you wanted to fill this in like a true traditional monogram, what you would do is when you got to the end, you would take your needle and you would go through both of these and wrap it round, and you'd get a satin stitch all the way round, and that would be completely filled in. Again, if you'd like to do that, that's obviously absolutely fine. This is your work. I'm just here for inspiration, and you must, you know, do with your work what you want to in order to try and achieve what it is you're looking for. I'm not going to satin stitch mine, I'm just going to frame it. And you could, if you wanted to, you could add something in that really depicts you. So for example, my love of poppies, I could stitch a poppy through the middle there. Or if I had a dried flower, I could stitch that on to my work. So there's lots of ways that you could make it, although they are your initials, but you could make it a lot more sort of personal and depicting you and your character. Now I've stopped at the cross line because I want to try and do it in one. So I'm now going to go across this line, okay, and then I will come down the other side like that. So we've gone across, and now I'm going to come down this bottom piece. We'll go across the bottom and up and then back down. So at the moment you've got a dot dash type line going on, but once we weave in our black, we're going to have a full line running around. And I'm obviously weaving through the black, which is a very contrasting colour to this mushroom. And it was the colour that was originally picked out. But you could use a light and a dark blue, a pink and a purple, you know, colours that are shades of themselves almost. You don't need to do contrasting, and you could even do it in exactly the same colour. I believe the one that I put on Instagram was in exactly the same colour, and it just gives you that more solid line. But I didn't want that for this. I wanted the alternating because I think it will tie in with the frame of these squares. Oops, it keeps getting caught on the edge of my desk. So, I know I wished you all happy Mother's Day, but did I check that you're all happy, safe and well? Sometimes I'm so eager to get into the project, I sort of forget myself. And I know I've definitely forgotten to say a warm welcome to the new subscribers. We've got Sandra, we've got Mel, and we've got Janet. So hello to you lovely ladies, and a big welcome. If you've been having a play around on the channel, you will have noticed that I have gone back and checked and adjusted the playlists, and I've added one for stitching and sewing, so all of these videos will now be in their own playlist. So it does mean that, because I know a lot of the followers are only here for paper, but then there's quite a few of you, I'm looking at the views, that are watching the stitching videos, so I figured it was time it had a playlist of its own. And remember, if you're watching, say hi. Let's know where all our stitchers are from. Are you in the UK or the States, Canada, Europe? Where are you? Say hello. Let's see if we can get a map of where all our stitchers and stitching viewers are from. That would be quite nice, wouldn't it? So we're nearly there. We've stitched all around the outside lines that we drew from our printout. I'm just giving it a little stretch because I don't stitch in a hoop. Sometimes it gets a little bit gathered up. So I've had a wonderful morning. I've as you know, I record these ahead. It's not actually Sunday, it's Friday, and I've been over and taken my grandson to school because they had a Mother's Day breakfast club and his mum has to be at work, so we turned it into Nan's breakfast. So it was lovely. I took him in and we had pancakes and fruit and juice and giggles, and that was lovely. And then I obviously walked him into school, which is just the other side of the field. And then I've been off out and got the weekly food shop, so that, oh, don't stitch through your loop, ladies, so that hubby can eat. And now I'm here stitching with you guys, so it's lovely. So we've been all the way around, and on the back there you can see, probably easier, all the little dash and dot lines. Okay, so I'm just going to tie this off by stitching through that. Tie that off and give it a snip. Okay, got an old thread there that we don't need. Turn that over. So there you go. So it is quite pale, as I say, and you can't really see it, but you wait till we go through all those stitches. So I find a length of black. Now, if you haven't got any of these and you're interested in these, I'm gradually trying to move over. I think they are the nicest things to stitch with. It's the Sheepy's Maxi Sweet Treats. I love them. I've told you before that I get mine from Wool Mouse, I think it's called. I'm sure it's called Wool Mouse. I'll put a link anyway in the description. And they're £1.50, which is cheaper than I was paying for a much smaller one. So I'm very happy with them. They're lovely to stitch with. Okay, so I've got a nice long thread again, another knot, and I'm probably going to go and start at the same, make sure I'm not putting a knot in it, at the same place. So I'm going to come up there in that corner when we came up originally, but I'm actually going to stitch, as it were, or feed with the back of my needle. So I'm on the top side, so I'm going to come under, and then I'm going to come under again, but going down. Okay, if we pull that through, you'll see what I mean. There we go, like that. Okay, and now of course now I'm at the bottom, so up from the bottom, and then down. I should have probably done it the other way around, stitched in black and then added the white, and then up, and just go all the way round like that. I feel like I've missed a stitch. I have missed a stitch. No, I haven't. Oh, okay. Just feed all the way round until you've done it all. And now all your little dash blanks, as it were, will all be connected. You can use the point of your needle if you want to. You just, sometimes you end up stabbing the fabric, so you might find it easier just to do it with the end of the blunt end of your needle. It's entirely up to you. So I'm just going all the way through like this. And now obviously you can see it much clearer. And then that's my signature, as it were, on my piece of work. Try not to get knots in your yarn, thread, whatever. So leave me a comment and let me know how you feel about the idea of the swap. If it's something you would be interested in, or if you'd rather do something else. I mean, there was a lady that requested to see my sewing, you know, my needle case, my sewing book. Perhaps you'd rather do something like that. Next week, as I say, it will be Roxy's Down the Garden Path anyway. So we're talking about in a fortnight's time. So it's plenty of time for people to see the video, have a little think and decide, you know, what they'd like to see. And that's absolutely fine. We can just move forward that way. Because at the end of the day, you know, as much as it may be my channel, without you guys there wouldn't be a channel. So I'm more than happy to listen to what you'd like to see. Because I know there are a few people that watch because they consider it relaxing. They don't stitch, they don't want to stitch, they're just happy watching. So that's also fine, obviously. But it doesn't stop you having a vote in what you'd like to see me stitch, does it? Just checking that I'm going in from the right side, that's all. And I was thinking when I was doing the monogram, I'd love to have had the letter S. I think an S would be awesome. So if your name, or one of your names, begins with an S, I am quite jealous because I wanted to do an S. Right, now can you see I've gone from the C to the H, And now I'm going back to the C. Doesn't really matter. We've already stitched the dots and dashes that we're filling in. So, you know, if you wanted to keep the two letters separate and do one at a time in the way that we did in the mushroom, it's fine. If you want to just follow the line you're on in the way that I am, that's fine as well. Doesn't really matter. What's not fine is the way this thread keeps getting caught on the corner of my table. That's rather annoying. I think I've decided the reason it keeps getting caught on the corner of my table is because it's one of these IKEA desks where the legs are actually sewn. It's because I'm sewing. The legs are actually screwed to the underside of the table. So of course there's a bracket just under there with screws in it. So I think that's why. But we can live with it, can't we? And I do usually stitch on my lap, so it's only when I'm recording for you guys that I sit at my desk here, so it's not something that generally happens. Oops, I've just bashed you now, haven't I, trying to avoid the corner of the desk. I'm sorry. Did I just have a humongous giant hand? And I've got blue ink all over my finger because I was doing something yesterday with distress sprays and it's, well, semi-stained my finger. I can't get it off. I'm going to have to resort to bleach. A bit of salt and some bleach and have a good old scrub, get that ink off. I don't want to be sporting blue ink all week, do I? It's bad enough that I've usually got coffee coloured fingers without now having blue as well. Right, let's just find this stitch. There it is. No. There it is. It's been pouring down with rain again all morning. I think it's finally stopped. And yet there was a day midweek, I can't remember which day it was now, and I actually had washing on the line. I don't know what's going on with the weather. And I swear the stuff that was falling on the windscreen when I was in the supermarket car park earlier could even have been described as sleet rather than snow, to be honest with you. Now, of course, if you were doing this in two pale colours, you'd probably need to get the iron out and iron away the pen lines that we did. But I'm looking at it now, and with this black threaded through, I can hardly see the pen line, so I don't think That will now be necessary. You'll have to judge with your own work, obviously. Right, I'm going to have a little slurp of coffee. Which is now almost cold. See, I just get stuck right in and forget about everything else. I dare say Boo will be down in a minute because it's getting to lunchtime and she's always eager for lunch, so sure how long we've been here, but I feel like we're almost there. Let's have a little look. Is that half an hour? Just over. Obviously all I'm doing now is repeating the process, not progress, the process. So obviously if you've got somewhere to go, then I totally understand, and it's easy enough to click off. Or slide, you know, right to the end, see the finished thing. I'll be honest, I do that sometimes when I'm watching a video. I'm like, okay, totally got the process now, know what you're doing. Whoops. Let's scoot to the end. I've missed the stitch there, I knew that looked wrong. Let's scoot to the end and see what it looks like. Here we go. I knew that didn't look right. That's better. And then back up through that one. No, no. No, 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 no. There we go. See, I've done it again. I've missed a stitch. It's very, oh, I'm sorry. It's very easy to see when you've missed one. You might not be able to see it when you're doing it, but after you've done it, you'll realise that the thread is sitting in the wrong place, or it's just too long, whatever. It will be obvious to you. It may even be that once you've done this, mastered it, you know, you go, that's so much easier than I thought it was, that this becomes the signature for all your work. Or you may want to move on and actually sign it and stitch over, you know, your actual signature. it doesn't matter how you do it, I just think it's important to sign your work. You know, too many people don't. And I used to be guilty of that. Now we've only got about 5 stitches and we're at the end, look. And then through to the back. And of course you won't see any of the black lines on the back because they're not actual stitches. It's just a wound thread. So try and not finish that off like so. And now I'm just going to go around and check that I've got no extra loose threads like this one here. We don't need those. I've trimmed that one a bit long. That can go over there. Yep, no. Oh, there's a little bit there. And just as it were, finish off your work. And there, putting an iron on that will straighten that out. There is a completely finished square panel with our 9 squares. So we started here with just 3 buttons and odd ways to stitch them. Then we moved here. We did these 3 pieces. We then went up here and we did these bullion stitch flowers. We then came over here and we did the sashiko type stitching. We did the flowers, just little circles with a stitch in the middle and a tail. We did the mushrooms, which were upside down Suffolk puffs and string, and then we overstitched the pattern and we put French knots so it was held down like a plaque. Last week we finished up all our fabrics with various different stitches and a button, and now today we signed it. So there you go. We have now finished our panel. I know it won't all fit on the screen because I zoomed you in. I hope you found some joy, inspiration and satisfaction in doing it or watching it being done. As I say, next week I'll be back with Down the Garden Path and then we'll be starting our new thing. Stay safe, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.